Hey, everybody, and welcome to the DM Disruption. And I'll tell you something, I am so excited about today's episode because I am talking to Shahram with Financial Sense. And we've just moved over. We started migrating in June of 2023. And it has been a pretty simple process, to be honest with you. And moving forward as we're looking to, set the pace for 2024. And I'm excited to spend all of 24 in Financial Sense as much as I possibly can, managing workflow, going through things. And we're really excited. So Shahram, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really excited to jump on this podcast and talk with you. It's been great having you join the family. It's been great working with you, and I'm looking forward to having you test out the system, get really deep into it, and also just hear like what we can do next. I think you've got a lot of great insights in the industry.
Yeah, super excited. We've been actually today, even just today, I got the employee sync to work so that the time could come over to QBO, so we could get that. We have some of these one-off clients that are like, they're not either in our subscription model or they're just tax returns. And so we have some of these smaller clients that we get once a year and we just do their books. So we're going to charge them by the hour for that just for 2023. We're going to fix that in 24, but I do love the fact that it was really easy. The help center was awesome. Just went in and said, how do I sync the time? Oh, you got to go over and link the employees, and you did all. It was like easy. So we've been really starting to dive more and more into the features and things. And I'm going to talk about my top 5 in a little bit. But before we do that, first of all, who the heck are you? What are you doing in the accounting space?
Yeah, I love talking about this. The reason we started Financial Sense, right, was we looked at the market. We interviewed a lot of firms. We said, what is the biggest challenge you guys face? And across the board, the top thing we saw was workflow. Because as a firm grows, right, like as whether you're a solo that, is growing your client base, or maybe you're expanding, you're hiring a few team members. As that happens, most of the time, firms start to become disorganized and everything becomes a little chaotic, right? And we looked in to see why. Why was this happening? And what we saw was these firms, what worked when they were smaller, right? Using spreadsheets, using all these different apps, worked for them. But as they scaled, those systems break. So this caused a lot of the firms, so for example, like no one knew what they needed to do, when by, they didn't have the information to do it. So client communication and team communication is in text, email, Slack. So no one can really find where those updates were. It's buried in their inbox. It's wherever. Documents and client information that they may need to get their work done is in those communication channels, but it's also on someone's desktop. It's in some folder somewhere. It's in some app. They can't find the information they need. And not only that, can they not access the info they need, but they don't know who's working on what. And did we really get this done at the end of the day?
Right.
And this really caused a lot of firms, like as they start to grow, things to kind of stagnate because they miss deadlines. Work quality suffers. Clients are upset. And what is the biggest growth source for accounting to get new clients? Referrals. If your clients aren't happy, you're not getting referrals. And then you lose clients because they're not happy with the work. So we said we wanted to solve this. And we realized the best way to solve this was to create an easy to use tool that was one place where that firm, so the owners and the team members, can get everything they need to get their work done. That single source of truth where they can see exactly what they need to do, exactly how they need to do it, and have all the information to actually do it. So the communication with the clients, the emails, the messages, the processes, the documents, the client information, all that is in one place, really creating that single source of truth for the firm. And that's why we created Financial Sense at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so, thinking about that whole workflow that people are missing, the transparency that everyone can see others work. What I love that you do the budgeting where it's like, okay, does anybody have any ability to like work more? Like how many hours are people working? And those analytics are so important because guess what, Shahram? If anyone is working over 35, 40, I could say 40. People think 40 is normal. I think 30 is more normal myself. So, but if you're able to see, oh, somebody's working 57 hours, they've been working 57 hours over the last 3 weeks. It's like, we need to pull some away from that person. We're killing that person.
Yeah.
We have to manage that better. So you actually have pretty detailed reporting when it comes to time tracking. And I know not everybody time tracks. Some people are like, I still time track because I want to make sure I'm, falling into line of the budget of the client. So people are doing it, even if they're on subscription pricing. There are people still tracking time for, management use, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily because you're like worried about your client, your whether your staff's working enough. Like, I just don't think that that's like a really great KPI. It's like, I want to make sure this person's working 60 hours a week. Like, we used to do that, but we shouldn't be doing that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer, if you don't trust the people, then you hire the wrong people. So if you gotta stand over the shoulder, make sure they're putting the time in, it really comes down to outcomes. But I do agree, like, everyone should be tracking time, right? Like, even if you're on the fixed fee, flat fee, monthly engagements, you want to know like how much time are we spending here, and is it profitable for our firm?
Right.
And that's a cool feature we actually have, where you can actually see, like, yeah, I billed them $1,000 a month, but what am I technically making on an hourly basis? Am I making $200 an hour? Am I making $50 an hour? Right.
Yeah.
Technically, right.
Right.
Based on the time put in, and it's a good way to like measure profitability, figure out, are you out of scope, and readjust your rates. So, you have enough resources to reinvest back in your firm.
Yeah. And I love that about scope creep, because we all talk about scope creep. But I know this isn't totally what we're supposed to be talking about, right? We're supposed to be talking the vision of financial sense, but we'll get back to that after this one little piece. So I love that, because what I find is when you are in that subscription model where it's this much a month and here are the things we're going to do for you, when something comes in that's out of scope, so easy to identify it. What people tend to do is it's like, okay, I'm just going to bill you by the hour for everything that we do. Well, there's a problem with that as well, only in that the value of what you're doing there's things that are very high value.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to do your workers' comp audit. You need me to, various things that we need to do. There are things that are much higher value than reconciling bank accounts, which are almost, they're limited value. They're necessary, but the value of doing that, you can get a college kid to figure out how to do that. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just very different. All right. I want to get off of that because I want to hear about your vision. Now, we know why you got into the industry, and that's important. And financial sense, give us a little bit about, we started with this many employees. We've moved to this many employees. Our vision is this. We anticipate expand. Whatever it is you want to tell us about where you've been and where you want to go with the company itself.
No, that makes sense. So, in terms of where we've been and where we're going, right? So the team has grown exponentially, right? I think this time last year we were 6 people, and we should end the year with 21.
Wow, that's great growth. Wow.
Yeah, and that's full time. That doesn't include part-time people. That probably, if you include part-time, it's more around 30. And we're completely bootstrapped. We haven't raised any money. We believe in bootstrapping because I think it helps you focus on value and build a clear, focused solution. But it's just because we've had so much success with this thesis, right? Of that single source of truth for the firms, one place to get your team to get everything they need to get their work done. But there's some other pieces to that, right? It's not just about that single source of truth. So the other thing is, it's got to be easy to use, right? There's a lot of really good workflow tools out there, but what we saw was they're very powerful and they're very robust, but it kind of overcomplicated things, and it made it too much for the average firm. And they didn't need all that, and they didn't want all that. And this caused, their team wouldn't adopt it. It would take months to implement. And when we talk to firms, the one thing they really don't have is time. They are typically working those 40, 50, 60 hours a week. They don't want to sit down and implement a complex tool. They don't want to train their team. They don't want to force them to use a tool that their team doesn't want to use. So if you make it super easy to use, set it up and just really quick. Your team, you don't need training because it's just so simple. Because it's simple, your team will actually use it. There won't be as much friction. You have better success with adoption. You see a lot of success. And that's one thing we've really focused on. Yeah. And the other thing is innovation. So one of our core values actually is creative innovation. and it's all about constantly innovating the product. And one, it's just fun to innovate, right? We like it as a team. It keeps things from getting boring.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of these firms have like, let's say PTSD, right? Because
Yeah.
these bigger, older tools that they're locked in, like they bought into 5 years ago, they stopped innovating. So they're now outdated. They don't have a lot of the functionality that a lot of these tools have now. And they have to rip this solution out, which is the heart of their firm, right? And reinvest into an entirely new tool. I don't think the firms that have gone through that want to go through that again.
Right.
So we want to innovate. So in 5-10 years, we are still on the cutting edge of what's new. We are still making the product better. We have the new functionality with the latest technology.
Right.
So firms don't have to change it 5-10 years down the road. They can grow and live in financial sense for as long as they need it.
Right.
And that's another big thing we care a lot about and we focus on. And I think has really been successful because we're releasing new updates every single week. And listening to our customers about what's next. What do we need to build? What do you want at the end of the day?
And I think that for sure integrations are critical. Like we talk a lot about the integrations, and you guys are making, I mean, it's constant. I see the constant changes, which is really great because you're listening. Some listen but don't act on it. Like, and sometimes I understand why. What someone's asking for is like, that's not, if that's the only one request. Now I've gotten 30 requests over here on this thing, but I've only gotten one for this request from you, that one firm. So that may be a bit down the road till other people actually want it. But for sure, as you're thinking about integrations, and right now, obviously you integrate with QuickBooks Online, you obviously integrate with SmartVault. You've got a SmartVault integration that is going, there's more to come on the SmartVault integration. You're allowing for, in the workflow, which is super cool, you're allowing for people to put in the work. I believe it's in the workflow or it's in integration. I can't remember exactly. I'm still trying to figure out where things are sometimes because I don't do a lot of the day-to-day workflow stuff. I'm doing tax returns. So I'm not in there like Nicole is, where she's really digging into those types of things. But even just having the ability to get to another app from within your app, you don't have to open another, you're saving clicks by being able to go bang, open up this application, open up Dext, open up this application, whatever part of your process may be, that you're allowing people to live within Financial Sense to get to other places so that you don't have this huge browser opening with what tab am I on? I mean, I watch people with browsers. It's insane.
It's very true. And it's not even like the tabs is a big one. People want to eliminate the tabs, but it's also like for your team, like as an owner, you might know where this information is, but your team might not. So like, there's a few things that go, like, so in it, like our future roadmap is integrations, right? So we have right now SmartVault, QuickBooks. We're about to release Adobe Sign. We're about to release, or we just released Zapier as well. But we want to integrate with Google Drive, OneDrive, SharePoint, Listio. We want to integrate with Ignition. We want to integrate with everything in the tech stack, right? Because to be a hub, your team has to be able to access all the information. Now, we don't want to build everything, right? Because if we build everything, you get back to that feature bloat is what we call it, where it's just too much. Like you're doing everything. So you're doing everything okay, but you're not doing anything really well.
Yes.
But if we can integrate with everything, so like, and it's on the work, like you were talking about. So when anyone on your team goes to the monthly bookkeeping for this month, they'll see a tab and they can open up that client's QBO file in one click.
Exactly.
They can open up the Dext file in one click. They can open up the OneDrive folder for that client in one click. They can open up anything. So like, even if it's not in our system, they can access the apps that have that data. And what that does is not only does it save them clicks, but it takes out that question of where do I need to go to get this? Instead, I always need to go to Financial Sense. And I know that to get everything I need. It makes it easier to onboard and train new employees. It makes your team more efficient. And it helps you, maybe not work those 40, 50 hours a week that we were talking about, because it empowers your team to get work done.
Yeah. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that's what we all want.
Mhm.
We all want to be able one click into QBO. Yeah, you got to sign in, do your 2FA. But so what? It brings you right to that data file. And that is such a big difference from now, let me go out to QBO, let me go. And then most of us have different, I'll call them realms. I'm not sure if that's what they're called, but when you land on when you log in as an accountant, there's like 17 different like companies. You got to pick from one of them and then go into it's just like, what?
Yeah.
And it's a lot, especially for onboarding, like you said, with a new team member coming in, where they're like, oh, they've been added to the QBO file, but now they've got to go in and we've got to make sure they have access. We have to do that step. But now when they're a financial sense, they can just go bang. They don't have to go find things. Those seem like they're bigger things than you think, right? Because the faster my people can get to the work, get to the Smart Vault folder where the bank statements may be, or whatever the case is, the more efficient they're going to be. And for me, people are like, well, we can save them time so they can work on more clients. No, like that's just not my sense. And I've not always been this way, Shahram. This is not like, this is new in the last year and a half. It's like, you know what? If we're saving time, we're making the money we want to make, we're comfortable in whatever that may be for each person. Awesome. You made this workflow so efficient that it's only taking you 30 hours a week to do all the work you need to do. Great. Take that other 10 hours of your life back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be about work, making more money, because some people are just not at that point, right? So you're allowing people to make those decisions by making it simple and be able to get those efficiencies in place. And that's the vision of Financial Sense, is to make, I love the fact that you're so about integrations, because I have to live that way.
Yeah. And like we're so, like our focus is so on integrations. Like even if we do something in our system, we still want to integrate it, right? Like like you can create folders and stuff in our system, but we still want to integrate with OneDrive, Smart Vault, SharePoint, because we want to give you the option to choose, right? We don't just do portal and like folder management, right?
Right.
So there's apps that do, and they do it really well. Now, if you don't need that, right, you can use ours. But if you need something more robust, more powerful, that gives you a lot more capabilities for your firms to do what you need to do, integrate with it. We're not going to make you choose, use us. So then that's a big thing, is I believe people want an option to choose, because some people want it all in one, some people want best of breed. And giving them the option is just, it's so great, right? Because
yeah,
we don't have to focus on being the best at all these other random things. We can be the best at workflow, and then give everyone everything else they need through integrations or through a light functionality inside the system.
Yeah. And so for people who are thinking about, just considering as they're thinking about, well, why would this, give me an example of why would I want to choose? Like, why wouldn't I want it in just one spot? And for me, I know for my workflow, as I use Lacert, and if you use Lacert or Pro Series, you may print tax returns directly to Smart Vault, because literally yesterday I did a tax return. Yesterday, I'm still in extension season. This is not happening next year. I'm all done with extensions, not doing it next year, Shahram. I am out of it. But, I was in there, I finished the return and I just went print. Okay. That's all, 2 clicks, all of the tax returns, all 4 of them. I print all 4 copies and they go right into the client's folder. Now, if I want to look at that tax return, I don't want to go to Smart Vault to look at it. I want to be within Financial Sense. I go to the client, I click on Smart Vault, it brings me to her folder automatically. I don't have to go into 2 places now. But the reason I wouldn't necessarily always use Financial Sense file structure, because you have file folder options, is because what I've been doing, this is where people get confused. You don't have to, the great thing about options is you don't have to fix something that isn't broken. And in that case, for me, that workflow is not broken. Even Intuit is trying to get me to go to Pro Connect for my tax preparation. I said, jump on a call. Let me show you. Will it do this? They want me so bad in Pro Connect. Maybe they'll fix it so that Pro Connect can connect to Smart Vault the way my other stuff. I'm not changing that process for my clients. They get it. Yeah. It's efficient. They understand how to upload to their portal. But if someone does send documents in through email, which may not be PII, they're not personal identifiable information, but they're still documents, they come into Financial Sense. I don't necessarily need to put them into Smart Vault. Maybe I do, maybe I don't.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I still have a place to go to find files when clients are emailing them to me.
Exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of people want, the perfect order of an all-in-one, but when they get the all-in-one, they're like, ugh, like, what is this?
Now I'm
Like,
stuck.
it doesn't do half the stuff. It does workflow, it does document, it does, but it doesn't do the stuff you need it to actually do. It's
Right.
just very basic. It's not very good. But you can have that. The main reason people want it is because they want all that data to be in one place so they can actually be organized at scale. But you can
Right.
still have that with the integrations, right? Because all that data can automatically flow into the hub, which we consider financial sense. And it can still access all that information, even though some of it lives in other systems. It can also live in that hub of financial sense through the data push.
Yep. And that's the beauty of options. And another tip I try to tell people about, a little bit more, a little nugget for people, and I hopefully this makes sense to them, but you're gonna choose an app that is solving for certain pain points. Like, I have to have these 3 things or 5 things. Like, this
Mhm.
app has to do these 5 things. It would be nice if it did these few things. And these would be like unbelievably awesome, but not like absolutely just not necessary. And so sometimes what people do is they'll adopt an app and expect it to do everything that they want it to do. And that, to me, there isn't an app out there that can do everything. There are some app partners that I'm aware of, that I know of, that are moving into other areas of practice management that are like trying to replace and make it so that's an all-in-one. And that's pretty tough, for, first of all, for you, for pricing, because you're going to price out your 3 to 10 to 20 user
Yeah.
people. You're going to price them out because of all those features. Take what the apps do best for you that you need, that are necessary. And then because they integrate, like Financial Sense, that's why you choose Financial Sense, because it integrates with the other apps that can solve those other types of things. Now you're maximizing that app for the things it does best, and let the other ones that do what they do best, let them do what they do best. And that's where we, and again, you can use it for an all-in-one. You can say, yeah, this is really, I need it for everything that it has, I use. That's great. But don't lock yourself down to say, I'm searching for that perfect app that's going to give me everything all in one. Not a thing. It's not a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So, but I want to shift a little bit, because I want to talk about my top 5 features. Now, it's really hard, Shahram, to come up with a top 5, to be honest.
There's so many.
There's so many, but I came up with, I think, my top 5 based on when I was making my decisions. When I was like, I need to do something different here. And these are my top 5. The first one, to me, that sold me on Financial Sense, the first one was the client inbox. And the reason for that is I don't want to manage email at all. I can't stand email. I'm striving to be like Andrew Wall, who like literally his auto reply is, I do not read emails. So, but in order to get to that point, we got to have a tool where I can be in that inbox. And because when I sit down, I open Financial Sense, the first thing I do is I go to my client inbox. I'm either waiting for an answer, I'm waiting on a DocuSign notification that someone signed in 8879. I'm watching for Ignition to see if they've paid their, accepted their proposal and made their payment. Because that, to me, to our firm, unless we receive those notifications, things are stopped.
Yeah.
That you're going to pay. So client inbox was probably in the beginning my favorite. That was number 1 for me.
It's a popular one. I love that one because it's a big problem. Inbox overwhelm. A lot of firms struggle with it. It's everything gets buried alive in there. You can never find it. It's like a black hole.
It is, and it gets worse. If you attend conferences, you'll know that, because you go to a conference and then for the next 2 months you are bombarded by sales emails.
Yeah.
Or those people who go online and check out your website and they're like, hey, I'd love to, here's a video I created for you. And you're like, it's just nonstop. Now, there are different ways. And here's the reason why I think this is so important. Yes, you can create rules in Outlook. You can have folder structures in Outlook. You can do all your email within Outlook. But the problem is you're constantly managing a new rule every time an email comes in your inbox.
Yeah.
Ain't got time for that. I'm not doing that. There's other apps who have, various ways where you can make them low priority. Like you won't ever see this one again, but I can guarantee you today, I will get 50 to 75 new emails, because what they do is they send you an email. They say, hey, I want to talk to you about your website. Then they change the email a little bit because they already know you've made it a low priority item.
Yeah.
It gets back into your inbox again. All you're doing is managing those emails. With your tool, it's only people that are in your client list that will hit that inbox. Now, tip for people. If you do want to receive DocuSign emails, make them a client. That's how you get that email into your inbox. That's what I found to work for me.
Good idea.
And so, but you can make groups and you can do all kinds of other things, but the client inbox was the first big sell for me. That's a big one. The other one was, of course, the workflow. The workflow makes sense. It's simple to set up. You can set up the templates. You can do all kinds of different templates, which I've had a system before. I've had systems before where they have workflow and they have templates and all that. So that wasn't new to me, but it was I felt like it gave me a little bit more customization than I've ever had before.
It's kind of ironic because, like, you know, we see people come from like Asana and ClickUp to our tool, right? And Asana and ClickUp are great, but like they're not built for accounts. So like you said, it just kind of works. Like they have to hire like a consultant to customize it or spend weeks learning how to customize it and customize it themselves, like taking some course. Again, don't have time and maybe don't have the money for that. But in our tool, even though it's so easy and simple and you don't really need to customize it, you still have the ability to actually set it up the way you want to set it, not just for your firm, but on a client by client basis, which is really powerful.
Exactly. And I think about when people think about workflow, it's more for me about everyone knows the process. Yeah. Everyone knows what has to happen first, who's responsible for doing those steps. The automatic initiation of, okay, Tracy's got all the administrative stuff done. Dawn, it's time to pick up the tax return. When I go in to look at my workflow, is it ready to be started? We had customized all of our tags to say, okay, this is ready to start. Ready to start individual tax return, ready to start business. So if I'm like, today's a business day, February is business month, like I'm doing business tax returns, I want to go in and look at my workflow to say what business returns are ready to start. So when I sit down in the morning, I can filter all my work and say, I have to get 3 individual tax returns done today. Bang, I sit down, I filter it and say, okay, these are all ready to go. Perfect. I'm going to start right at the top. I'm not going to differentiate, just going from here. Or maybe I'm like, I want to do my Schedule C's first. Maybe I want to do my Schedule E's first. The ability to filter and tag the workflow is also extremely important. And I love how the different views you have where you can save and customize those views and how it even shows up. Those kind of things, because everyone's different, Shahram, yeah. Right? So if you can it, believe me, it's canned. It can be, you can just look at the regular view, but if you want to filter and tag things, that's the beauty of the workflow customization.
Agreed. I completely agree.
And if you're using Asana and those other tools, yeah, you might be able to do click and get to a file thing. You can kind of do that with anything, but there's no real integration. And that's something that because they're not built for account. And I'm not picking on Asana, I'm just using it as an example, but great reason to have that customization the way you want it. Now let's talk about customization, because that's my third thing.
Ooh.
Being able to go and edit information and add fields so that when you click on a client, I can see their EIN. I can see the date they incorporated. These are things that people are like, well, what do you need that for? A lot of things, a lot of reporting and compliance. We need those things. Do we have a state withholding number? Do we have an unemployment number? So we're able to filter through those types of things to say, okay, this is a new client that came in. And we find this, I'm sure other people find this, they're coming in and I'm like, there's no workers' comp. Where's the workers' comp number? Nobody ever obtained a workers' comp number, or they're not registered in a state for a particular license. When you have all of that, where you can just click and see everything about that client in one spot, that's what I've dreamed of that.
That's one of our really popular, the custom fields on the client profiles, where you can just put anything. And what's really cool, and I'm sure you're going to bring this up as one of your other favorite features, is that client database view, like the dashboard, where you can see all your clients in one list and then all the information, and you can have up to 10 of those custom fields. So you could choose, right? You can say, like, I want the EIN, the client ID number, the renewal date, entity type, and then you could see all your clients, and you can filter and search, right? Like, show me all my S Corp clients. Show me all the clients that are that have a year end of January, right? Or like you can really filter down and view them all in like lists and save those groups. And it's really cool. Not only can you view it on the profile, but you can view it in the database and filter down and run reports based off that.
Yep. And it's not on my list of top 5, but is a top 10.
Okay.
So like you said, being able to cut, when I could just go to my dashboard, let's say it's a new client, for instance. Tracy's going to go in, she's going to enter all the information for the new client. Now, when I'm going to enter it in the tax return, let's say they're an S corporation. This is a great thing for people. We want the EIN. We either get it off the tax return. We prefer to get a CP 575, which is the EIN originated letter. So we know what they're supposed to be filing as, because sometimes people are filing the wrong forms. I know you're also surprised by that. So, well, she'll go in and she'll say, okay, here's the EIN, here's the unemployment number, here's the state registration number, meaning the Secretary of the State number you need on some of this stuff. Here's the withholding number, here's their tax number, here's their franchise tax web e-file number for those states like Texas and Florida. We have a web file number. So that is just in my view is going to be different than Tracy's view. That's going to be different than Nicole's view. They want to see different things than I want to see.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's the beauty of it. So let's move to now the time tracking when necessary. The reporting there is phenomenal. Syncs easily with QBO. If we need to invoice somebody for an off project, things like that, which is what we're using it for. But the time tracking, and we talked a little bit about the fact that, some people want to time track. Shahram saying, I think everyone should time track. In circumstances you may not have that. We're very subscription priced. We are very comfortable with what we're charging. We're in that space right now. So we're really only tracking one-off stuff. But Tracy tracks all of her time in Financial Sense because she's only admin.
Yeah.
So she'll track it under Powerful Accounting Inc. So I can go when I got to do her payroll, I can just grab that report real quick and be able to do that. Makes it really, you know what it did? It eliminated another app for me. I used to use QB time tracking, used to be T-Sheets.
Yeah.
And I got rid of that fee. I got rid of that cost because it's easy. I could just do it right here within Financial Sense, which was where you wanted to do it.
Yeah, because you're getting more detailed reporting, right? When you're doing in T-Sheets, you can't really track like to the work. You can track to the client. You can have some service times, but like,
right.
Is it January's monthly bookkeeping that took so long, or February's, right? Like you get better, more granular reporting. And what's also cool, I mean, one thing we're going to be releasing, if you do like tracking time, that you wouldn't be able to get in T-Sheets or like a toggle or something that's just time tracking, because it's integrated in workflow, is we're going to have something soon where when you click into a project to view it, you're going to get prompted, do you want to start a timer? And then when you go into another project, it's like, do you want to switch? Because a lot of people forget, right? And it just makes it more easy, right? And it makes sure if you have a team, your team's actually tracking their time and their time is accurate versus where they make mistakes or they leave a timer running over the weekend. And next thing you know, they have like 100 hours for some reason, right?
So true, Shahram, because that's one of the reasons I liked it. It was like easy. And I always use Nicole as an example because for her, she may be working 15 minutes on this thing and 10 on that. And she's going to go in and, let me move to the other client. Yes, you can't get to the project level well, you could, but no one's going to do that. You would be out of your mind to set QB time up like that, in my opinion. You know what you're doing? You are wasting, you have not understood the whole conversation of productivity, efficiency breeding productivity. That's extremely ineffective. So being able to do that within this and being able to have that automatic switch on a project, especially at the project level, because here's what also happens. People go, all right, I'm going to go click in this project. I'm going to answer a couple of emails related to this project, and then I'm going to go somewhere else. You don't track that 5 minutes.
You don't. Yeah.
5 minutes times 50. You know what I mean? Just take that's 250 minutes. It's a lot of time that we're just not using to analyze. I'm not talking about necessarily billing, but being able to analyze the time associated with that on a phone call. You should have a work in there for phone calls or emails. Yeah. I'm answering, pop it open, bang, I'm doing an email for this person, blah, blah, blah. And look at what the time is, but it's not taking up your time to track it. You're just clicking.
Yeah.
Right.
People would be, if they tracked all their activities throughout the day, I've done this just as a thing, like you will be surprised where your time goes. You're like, you won't realize how much time you're spending doing certain things. And if you can actually get that, that's going to tell you really quick little things that you can automate, how much time it can save and make your firm more efficient. And that's what we teach about that actually. And it starts with tracking time, even if you're not billing on it.
Absolutely. And I remember when I hired Tracy, I think it was 2017. It was 2016 or 17. She's been with me for a bit, right? I hired her because I was doing exactly what you're talking about, tracking every minute. And I was, even if I wasn't like, if I was just doing a bunch of administrative things or a bunch of little things, I would always clock in. It may not have always gotten to the job because it wasn't necessarily billable, but I was always tracking it. I found I was at 65% of my time was admin or
Wow.
little projects or whatever. 65%, Shahram, for the most highly billable person in the firm.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to eliminate that. And I don't necessarily track my time anymore. I do very minimal administrative work. Tracy primarily does that, and she spends around 20, even during tax season, I would say 25 hours a week that she tracks her time. But that I used to do that. So I would work that 25 hours, and then the rest of the time I'd be trying to do billable work. It was probably more than that because we didn't have tools, we didn't have integrations, we didn't have all this technology that we weren't implementing all of that stuff back then, with some of it, but not all of it. And so, yeah, that's going to show you what's good and what's not good. So if you're finding you're not very profitable, what the heck are you doing with your time? Start tracking it as an analytics tool, not because you're trying to value the hourly person. It's not about that necessarily. So definitely food for thought, but I just think it just was so easy.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
And my fifth one, of course, there's more, but my fifth one is the alerts, the in-app notifications. The robustness is what I'm going to call it. The number of optional alerts that you could set up. And I love that you can be alerted or not be alerted for certain things, because there's certain things I don't care about. I don't want a million alerts when I jump into, when I'm sitting there. There's certain things I want to know about. There's certain things I don't. So being able to chat through alerts, hey, someone made a comment or there's a notification for something, has kind of, we believe by the end of the year, we'll be able to eliminate Slack, because we can just work within the work and use the alerts and have those comments and alerts be attached to projects. Even if it's administrative, Tracy can make comments while she's in that work for things she may need to ask me.
Yeah, there's so much power in that, right? Like, again, going back to like that single source of truth, if you're having these conversations about work in Slack, when you're doing the work, you need that context sometimes. And then you have to go to Slack and search through it and try to find it. Versus, again, like everything in financial sense, like a core philosophy we have is everything related to the work needs to be stored on the work. The apps related to the work, the conversations with the client, the conversations with the team, the processes, the documents, everything needs to live in that one screen. Yep. So one click away. And you have all the context you have with across everything. So you don't miss anything, and you can 100%. Get your work done.
100%. So those are my top 5. But like I said, I mean, there's a lot more that we can get into, and I think that that's important. But we're going to wrap up here in a minute. But I want to talk about your Workflow Con. Con conference. A con is for conference, so I'm not sure you say it twice, but you know what I mean. Workflow Con. So tell us about it. When is it? What are we going to learn there?
Yeah, so it's October 24th and 25th. And the reason we wanted to do Workflow Con is because every one of those conferences, right? It's a place to, network with people, it's community. You learn from really smart people that are like the best at what they at certain things, right? So it's a great educational experience. But when we looked at the conference like atmosphere for accountants, we saw there wasn't one conference focused on workflow. And again, back to what I was saying earlier, we found workflow is the biggest challenge firms have as they grow and scale. So we said, let's create a conference just focused on workflow. That's about, figuring out like how to document your processes, how to scale your processes, the technology you need to scale your processes, right? Best practices for internal team management, for client management, anything related to workflow, all the ins and outs. And we've got an amazing list of speakers, right? Including you, Dawn. I know
wouldn't miss it.
We got, Kelly, Eric Green, Jason Statz, Niall Carter Gray, a lot of other great speakers, right? That's just to name a few. But it's going to be a great conference. It's 100% virtual. It's 100% free. Right now, we already, I think, so we're about a month out, and we already have well over 1,000 people registered. So it's been resonating with the market, which is exciting. This is our first one, and we plan to do it every year. Maybe eventually make it an in-person conference. Who knows?
You never know.
But we're really excited about that.
And I think what I love, honestly, for me is the timing. That's what I love the most, because November and December should be work on your business. Those should be the months, the 2 months that you are gearing up and preparing for the next year. Some people don't do tax, people do the bookkeeping, but guess what? Without the bookkeeping, we don't get the tax. So it's, if not more important, that the bookkeeping workflows are working and that things are happening, and that as you go through the year, hopefully using an actual workflow tool that is, again, optimal and able to work for you, you can come to this workflow con and get all the information you need to make sure you set up that workflow, that you know what needs to be done, and implement it over November and December, getting your team on board, getting all your templates set up and in place and those kind of things. And so, and your integrations and determining how you're going to do your workflow. So that's really exciting. And it's the 24th and 25th, I think you said. I think it's the 24th and 25th. And give me the times. What are the times, 8 a.m. to, or what is it?
I think it's 8 a.m. to 5. Let me check.
That sounds right. I mean, I know we're coming off the cuff a little bit here, but
yeah. Oh, no, it's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Perfect, because of Pacific people, we got to be sensitive to those people over on that other side over there, right? So 10 to 5 Eastern time.
Eastern time. And I mean, if anyone, so like a big thing about it too is like we have like short sessions, kind of like we talk about with this podcast. No one really likes to sit on a interview or something for like an hour, like in a session. So 30 to 45-minute sessions. They're very straight to the point, like actionable frameworks that you can take away, easily implement in your firm, and none of that fluffy theoretical stuff. There might be a little bit of that, but it's really focused on what can I actually take from this conference and implement in my firm today to get me to that next level before, like you're talking about, the end of the year. And if you're interested in it, you can Google Workflow Con Financial Sense. It should come up. Or you go to our website, you'll see a banner, financialsense.com, where it'll say like sign up for Workflow Con.
And just for those of you who may just be listening and not watching, Financial Sense is financial, CENTS, like money, sense, money, right? So I just want to make sure for those who are just listening. But Shahram, it's always my pleasure to have you on, or just my pleasure to talk to you in general, man. I know you're a busy guy. You're out there killing it. Great ambassador program. You got a lot of great people who are giving feedback and championing, what Financial Sense has done for them and their firm. And we so much appreciate all you're doing for the industry, which is also a really big deal. So thank you for coming on, and thank you people for listening to the DM Disruption. Dawn Brolin here. Really excited about Financial Sense, excited about Workflow Con, excited about QB Connect, you name it. We're all excited. Use the last quarter of your year after the extension deadline for those of you who are tax preparers, and use it to work in your business. And you need to start with workflow. Start with Financial Sense. Let's get it done. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you next time.
See ya.